to TekTor TV, one of the many services provided by TekTorProductions.com, home of the indie comic creator. Today we have a very special interview for you guys with not one, but two independent comic creators. We are going to be talking to the creative team behind Venezia. So without any further ado, let's jump on into this week's video. First, I want to thank you guys for taking your time out. I know we had a little bit of time difference. So what time is it where you guys are?
It's 8:23 p.m. in Georgia currently.
Okay, Georgia. And Wolf, you were saying it's after 1 o'clock there in the morning?
Yeah, it's 1:22 in London.
Okay. I definitely appreciate you staying up late and taking some time out to do the interview. So thank you guys.
He's always on his time anyway. Don't let him.
Anything for the cause.
I think most artists are probably up pretty late anyways, and one's not too late probably for the artist schedule. So.
Normally I go to bed about probably about 10 or 11 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
I sleep till about 4, so I would have been up either way.
All right, that's cool. Well, let's start off a little bit with your guys' backstory, I guess, how you guys what it is you do primarily, and kind of how you got into it, and a little bit about your story.
Sure.
Wolf, yeah, I guess I'll let Wolf take that one first.
Okay, go ahead, Wolf.
Okay, well, when we first started this project, I was a teacher, and then we started the comic, and about 4 months later, I quit teaching to focus full-time on the comic, which I've been doing now since June. And, yeah, I'm putting all of my hours into making this the best that it can be.
Okay.
Pretty much I started out in 2007 with an independent comic that pretty much came about as a result of getting laid off from my job. And last year it became pretty much what I did 24/7, and been making a living at it ever since. So, yeah.
Okay, so are you both currently, is that you're making a living off of the project or off of your artwork and stuff then?
I'm currently making a living off of artwork in general.
Okay.
I have several projects going on all the time at once. Okay. And
I'm currently not making a living.
Okay. So, alright, and the reason I'm asking, because, especially for other artists out there, especially really for, people getting started, that's kind of the dream, right? To be full-time doing what you love, working on your project, or, freelance, or whatever it is. So how'd you guys kind of make that leap then? I know, Wolf, you said you quit your teaching job. And then Brian, you made that transition. So I don't know, maybe we'll start with Wolf. What caused you to quit the security of a teaching job to work on your project and like you said right now, not make a living?
Well, basically, I had to come back to the UK. I was living in Italy, where my job was, and I wanted to come back for medical reasons, and so I'm currently back here doing that. And whilst I'm here, I decided that, if I really want to make it happen, I have to give all of my attention, all of my focus to making this comic. And so for the past year, I saved and saved and saved, and I'm now currently living off those savings, just trying to make the comic happen and build a great comic for people to enjoy.
Okay. Brian, how did you make that transition from, regular job, doing art on the side, into being able to do that full time?
Well, pretty much, I was actually a plumber to begin with. I was a plumber, and I was working with my father, and he ended up having to have a quadruple bypass. And pretty much what ended up happening was, during that time, we decided that, we were both fairly artistic people, and we thought that we knew what we were doing in comics. And so we decided to try and work on a project. And what came out of it took about a year. and because apparently we had no fucking clue at all what we were doing. But the transition financially, like I said, it started in 2007, and I just started doing it full time last year, where it's actually a survivable rate, pay scale that I'm on. But I mean, even now, I live with my girlfriend, and we both pretty much pay our equal share of the bills. But one thing, as far as the transition, I mean, it definitely takes, if you have a partner or girlfriend or wife or whatever, it definitely takes another understanding individual. And we actually met working together, so it's one of those weird things where it's been a hell of a ride as far as the transition period. But it's been worth it. It's had its ups and downs, so I won't say it's been easy, but it hasn't been extremely difficult, because I'm one of those people where, I kind of just accept change and go with it, and just kind of throw myself into it. And basically, a year ago, I started out doing a small project. Actually, it was terrible. And I was getting about, I was getting like $7 a page. And, I actually turned that into some kind of livable wage, where I actually get a decent page right now. But I mean, transition-wise, it's been okay.
Okay. So it sounds like the common thread between the both of you is, it's not like something magical just happened. You've worked hard, and you've made sacrifices to be able to do that and to work on your art.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's the statement.
So if someone's listening and they're thinking, "Oh man, that's what I want. Just any day now, just someone to give me a big salary to sit around and draw all day." You got to earn it if you really want it. Is what it sounds like I'm hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I effectively made myself homeless trying to do this to begin with. I put all of my money into the first issue, and it was pretty messed up to begin with.
I mean, you have to have a lot of tolerance to start out and get to where you can do something. If you're starting out working hard and you're not, the next Art Adams or Alex Ross or whatever, and you can just say, "Hey, look, I did this. Now give me some money," and they're like, "Fuck yeah!" It's more like you submit to people and they're like, "Sorry, kid, we just don't fucking like your shit. Get the fuck away from me," And honestly, I've had that reaction so many times. And then, you'll get these people that are really nice, and you'll think that something good's going to come of it, and you never fucking hear back from them. It's just like, it's one of those things where you can't let other people or lack of email contacts, because, I mean, reviews of portfolios and everything, they take forever, and, you'll hear back from people weeks or months later after you send them in, but you can't let it discourage you. And, I mean, as far as, you really have to have a thick skin and a tolerance for the business itself, as far as, just kind of breaking in and dealing with projects that you don't want to work on versus projects that you love and care about, as far as making a living and a wage off of it.
Okay, so how did you two, because obviously we got Georgia and we've got London, how did the two of you meet up and start working on a project together?
Well, technically I was in Italy to begin with when we first met. I wanted to run a competition to find an artist that I felt... Well, we're doing a comic, in case people are listening who don't know about the comic. It's set in the Renaissance period of Italy. And I really wanted to find an artist that was not only good at character work, but also could really bring the city to life as a character itself. That was really important to me going into the project. And so I ran a competition, and about 30 people applied, and they did a test page. And Brian came in pretty much at the end. He was one of the last ones. And the moment I saw it, it was pretty obvious that I had to hire him. And yeah, the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, I think it took a little bit more convincing than the test page. I mean, because it's like everything else. Everything takes a little bit of boiling down and refining, because normally the first page you turn in, unless you've talked to the person and you have an understanding of what they're looking for, generally there's going to be some kind of stuff you're going to have to go back and redo.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've
it was the first draft was not perfect by far, but it eventually worked out, and he really wanted me, so
Yeah, I mean that's one of the great things about our working relationship is that we're both really passionate about this comic, and we both have clear ideas of where we want to go, and sometimes those kind of visions, they do clash a bit, and the fact that we can really passionately argue about that and try and find a way forward together, it just makes the project so much better as well. Like, just to have that extra kind of fusion of passion involved.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been in Skype chats with Wolf where we're at each other's throat, but you know, at the end of the day, we're like brothers in arms almost, because you know he has this very clear vision of what he wants for his story, and I'm like, no, what we need is fucking more people, you know, getting disemboweled, you know, and you know, it's one of those things where you kind of have to find that perfect balance for the collaboration. And I'm more of a visually driven storyteller, and he's more of a, I guess you would say verbally driven storyteller. I don't really know if that's correct, because you know it's more like verbal refers to talking, but I'm more visually driven, and and while Wolf still is visually driven, he is much better on the page than he is as far as, you know, coming up with. It's a good collaboration, because I'm extremely good with like what I want and what he wants, and we just kind of mesh it together well. Even though, like I said, you know, we've got, you know, forks and daggers at each other's throat half the time.
Now, I did want to back up with something you said there. You mentioned about looking for someone who can make the city come to life. When I was looking through, you guys sent me a sample, and when I was reading through it, looking through it, that was one thing I really noticed. Now, I don't normally, when I read comics, I don't normally notice the backgrounds, or if I do, it's because I'm going through and I'm like, oh, look how simple these backgrounds are. Like, it's not even, like, some people you can just get away with it, and, you know, the fast pace, or it's a good story or whatever, and you don't really even notice how simple it is. And when I looked at your guys' stuff, I was amazed at the backgrounds. I definitely can agree, that, like, the city became a character. And the detail, and especially at the end of it, where you, or if I was on your guys', like Brian, I was looking at some of the art on your page, or at the end of the that preview edition you sent me, and it had like the black and white and stuff. Just the detail of the city, I totally agree. Like, yeah, the city is a character in and of itself, and it just was beautiful, and that added something to it. That if you just had someone in there who just wanted to draw cool characters and just kind of have like nondescripted backgrounds, it would have been a completely different story.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Go ahead, Wolf.
No, Brian, you go.
Yeah, as far as visually storytelling goes, I would say I'm not classically trained. I've never formally had any art classes. As far as technical aspects go, though, I happen to be lucky enough to live in a city where there are several comic book artists that I'm friends with who are very adamant about not teaching me how to draw, but pointing out technical aspects and things I need to work on. And the most important thing that came out of a conversation I had with Ray Snyder about inking was black on white to making things 3D and pop out. One of the biggest things I took from Craig Hamilton was the attention to detail. And I think that if you're going to do a comic and you're going to do like, you know, like a panoramic shot or like a faraway shot, then you have to kind of stack detail, but you have to stack it in a way that is appeasing to the eye, and you really have to make that pop and have that correct layer of black and white. And honestly, like I said, I'm by far not perfect. But I try to give that thought whenever I'm working on a panel. And if something's extremely close to you, it's probably going to have, like, you know, some impressive detail, but as it gets further away, it's going to get more simple. But a lot of people will go, this is the foreground, this is the midground, this is the background. I do that, but as soon as they get to the midground, they start dropping out detail. I try to carry that detail as far as it'll go.
Okay.
You know, like, I've always enjoyed panels where...
Yeah, I mean, building on what Brian just said there.
What? Go ahead, Wolf.
There seems to be a time delay. I seem to be talking over you.
No, I'm fine with you cutting in. That doesn't bother me.
I was speaking when you were pausing, but it's the
I pause a lot. I'm just trying to figure out how to word what I'm saying next. It's just how I work. You know this.
No, it's the conference call. The conference call is doing something to control delay.
But yeah, you know, it's one of those things where as a kid growing up, it's one of those things that I noticed where people, as soon as they get to the mid-ground, they start dropping out details. And I really enjoyed those comics where if you're standing and looking at a cityscape, down to that last building, you're going to see every fucking window and every brick. It's, it's just something that really caught my eye. And carrying detail as far as humanly possible. That's one reason I work the way I do. And I didn't grow up reading like Marvel and DC. I grew up in the 90s, pretty much. I discovered comics in the 90s. And oddly enough, I was raised on indie comics and image stuff. And I won't say I was so much influenced by the image stuff, although I am to some extent. But I was more inspired by more independent stuff like Tim Vigil's Faust and stuff like that.
Okay. I want to come back to that, but Wolf was saying that you're getting a delay. Are you having a hard time keeping up with us?
Well, no, it's just when I'm coming in, it's coming in on pauses that I hear, but then I'm not getting in without interrupting. It's weird. Anyway, what I wanted to what I wanted to say before was I think that if you treat a location like a character, it just creates a much better story as well. I mean, if you look at like Batman, if Batman wasn't in Gotham, it just wouldn't be the same, you know. I mean, Gotham is this old city mixed with new, and you know, can you imagine Batman living in, I don't know, London or Hong Kong or something? I mean, it wouldn't work.
Batman living in the ghetto. I mean, that always made an interesting story to me, you know. It's like Batman protecting all the hood kids. That would be fucking awesome. You know, I mean, literally, from my standpoint, it really would be. I would like to see the slums of Gotham, or, you know, the ghetto of Gotham.
Crime Alley.
Yeah, but they never do that, you know? I mean, anyways, sorry, that's a completely different tangent I'm going on, sorry.
But no, yeah, sorry, you speak, Joe.
Oh, I was just going to say, Brian, like I said, I wanted to come back to the thing that you said about your influences, and I kind of like that you both touched on that a little bit. Like you're saying, you weren't a big Marvel DC, you came more into like the era of the independent 90s and stuff. And then, Wolf, I remember, I can't remember what it was, when I was going through your different profiles and stuff, you had a quote from a writer or something like that, and you were talking about some of your influences. So if you guys just want to take a second, we'll start with you, Wolf, and a little bit about your influences on your art and how that kind of has affected you.
I think maybe you're thinking of the Kickstarter when I was talking about Alexander Dumas.
Yes.
Yeah, Alexander Dumas, obviously he's famous for the Three Musketeers and the novels that entailed from that. And one of the last novel of the Three Musketeers stories was The Man in the Iron Mask, which is a really dark tale. Unlike the movies, etc., you know, like, spoiler warning, the guy that's in the Iron Mask who gets out, he ends up being put back into the Iron Mask, and it's that kind of gothic storytelling that I really felt influenced by, and have tried to kind of infuse Venezia with this gothic justice, I suppose you could call it. You know, the character Venezia, she's brutal, you know, she kills without mercy, etc. And it really is a reflection of that kind of storytelling from that period. And I was really excited about kind of pushing that into a modern kind of comic as well.
Okay. Now, I want to say real quick, I'm using the word art, and I know if you're the writer, and you're a writer, I'm using that as a broad term, as an artist, whether it be, you know, writing, penciling, inking, coloring, so just throwing that out there.
Okay.
In broad term. Brian, did you want to pick back up a little bit? I didn't know you were saying about the independent comics of the 90s.
Well, you know, it's just there were certain books that I was more influenced by than others that, you know, more people may have heard of. Like, honestly, the first comic book I ever had was X-Men, and it was that Jim Lee 20 different fucking covers because they want your money as bad as they can get it deal with fucking Pizza Hut, where they gave you the first episode of Night of the Sentinels on VHS. It feels so weird talking about VHS now, but you know, it's like fucking Betamax or Laserdisc all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that never really did it for me. It started me out. It got me going in comics, but like, you know, I didn't really read. I more looked at the artwork of, you know, popular Marvel shit, you know, Spider-Man or X-Men, and that was really about it. I mean, I didn't even read Batman until I was like, after the Burton movie came out. It was after about Batman Forever where I first saw a Batman comic. Was this fucking comic, really?
Terrible.
I was more into stuff like Spawn and the darker stuff like Spawn or the Max. You know, as far as influences go, I will definitely say some of the Image school is a big influence on me because it's what I grew up reading and enjoying, like Todd McFarlane on Spawn, Greg Capullo on Spawn, which I'm a bigger fan of than McFarlane, Tim Vigil on Faust, Sam Keith's The Max, which is a huge influence on my work. I never get a good story where I can actually show that, because everybody really, you know, it's not about that big muscular guy in the fucking purple outfit with the huge yellow claws that slightly resembles Wolverine, but is way more interesting than that character could ever hope to be. You know, but yeah, I grew up on stuff like that, and like Frank Miller's Sin City, and you know, I have a list around here, and pretty much every comic I've ever read. But I more gravitated towards darker indie stuff because Marvel was just too glitz for me. You know, and it was just too. You ever feel like Marvel's trying to rape your childhood? You know, whenever you look back at the 90s, it's like, we've got foil covers and fucking Dayglow covers and 6 trifold. How the fuck do you get this thing open to read the inside interior artwork? You know, they had that. And I look back now and I'm like, wow, man. It was like they were Catholic priests and I was an altar boy.
Yeah,
that's how I have about early...
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say with what you're saying about, like, how do you get it open. I had a comic I got. It was like an Avengers... I don't remember what issue now, but it had this thing that I thought unfolded, and I tried, and I wasn't sure if I was, I wasn't sure if I was tearing it, and so I just left it alone. And it wasn't until a couple years ago I was going through my comics, and I'm like, you know what, this thing hasn't, I'm just gonna try it, and it unfolded to this like amazing poster thing that for like 10 years I never even knew was there.
Yeah, I know, man. That was one of the big Marvel staples. It was, let's insert a poster in this version, and let's have a Dago cover and a card cover and everything else. And it was like, dude, I don't give a fuck about that. Why can't you just do like Todd McFarlane did with the first issue of Spawn? Print a nice fucking cover and have the goddamn book and sell, 1 million copies. Jesus. It's like that. That was really... But, I think everybody knows that by now, that Marvel and DC, and nothing against those guys because it's all about business and marketing. And I can respect that from a certain standpoint, but, as a buyer and an avid comics reader, more for artwork than story.
I have to admit that I am a massive DC fan. I'm pretty much obsessed with DC, to be frank. I just love the mythology of their characters. There's just something about how DC does origins that it's just so exciting, and there's just so many different ways that it can be done. And so many stories that can be told out of those origins as well. I mean, Grant Morrison and Alan Moore.
Until they start switching them up every 5 years. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. I'm sorry.
But no, like like Grant Morrison and Alan Moore.
After issue 12. Sorry,
I was just like big names for me.
I was talking to myself.
I'm there with you. I understand. I'm the same way where I started out with. The main stuff, like DC, and I was a DC kid, my friend was Marvel, and then as I got older, I got more into, more Marvel, and then even into the independent stuff, and so I would say I'm pretty equal between DC, Marvel, and independent. Now, between DC and Marvel, I know it's weird, like, it's like choosing between two of your kids. You're like, oh, which one do I like better? It's like I kind of like the characters better of DC, but I think that DC doesn't really know how to use their characters as well as Marvel. So it's like Marvel maybe doesn't have as good of characters, but they use them better. They can, and DC's got these like way cooler characters, but the characters kind of suck, in that sense.
And you wonder.
Well, I think a lot of that kind of Marvel is doing better. It comes from the movies right now, and it's worth bearing in mind, like, Disney has owned Marvel for, I don't know how long now, a couple of years, isn't it? And Disney is really good at marketing. I mean, they've had 100-odd years to do it. Whereas DC, I think they're starting to get their feet. I mean, all this Nolan crap that keeps going around, I think that's I think that's kind of.
I respect fucking Christopher Nolan, filmmaker. Okay.
No, don't get me wrong.
No. I mean, like a lot of people like to talk shit about the Nolan trilogy, but Joel Schumacher. Thank God he's not.
Hold on. I love Nolan, but I think there's too much emphasis on what Nolan has done for DC, where all he's really done is give 2 great Batman films. And hopefully a good Superman film.
Hold on.
Yeah, don't get me started about Batman.
He is producing the Superman movie. The Superman movie is being directed by the guy who did 300 and Watchmen. And
I know, but I have hope. I keep the dream alive.
Honestly, I've seen that trailer. I actually want to see it. I'm not gonna lie. I've always fucking hated Superman because he's like the Boy Scout of the comic universe. But I actually want to see
mouth out.
I always liked Superman, but I just was like, do something good with him. He's such a cool. Like, I thought the idea of being almost infinitely powerful, like no one else could beat him. Put him in a good story, and I always had that struggle of I didn't feel they were doing a good potential, and it's like his powers were so cool.
They did something really cool with him in the '90s.
They gave him
What's that, Wolf?
I said they did.
Well, no, that was just like no, I was just saying, like, when they originally started Superman, he didn't have all these powers, and then throughout the Golden Age, they just kept giving him more and more powers, until they made him pretty much basically invincible, and then all you've got is his humanity.
You have to have better writing.
I'm going to be honest. I have never read a Superman book in my life, but I have always thought to myself, why doesn't somebody just melt down a bunch of fucking kryptonite bullets, put them in an Uzi, and shoot the motherfucker? I mean, honestly. It's like, why doesn't somebody do that? And if they have, that's fine. But that's just always been the appeal to me. Why doesn't somebody just do that?
They did that in that Smallville TV show. Some guy with a hunting rifle put a couple rounds in him.
Yeah, but that's not an Uzi.
No.
That's not like putting them in an AK-47 that fires a shitload of rounds at once.
Yeah.
Or a Tommy gun. I
think the problem that I think anyone has with a character that people are really invested in is getting rid of it. It's really hard to let go, especially if something that's bringing in a lot of money. So
you mean like they're doing with Peter Parker in the Spider-Man series in December? If nobody knew about that, I'm sorry, but
I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry.
I keep up with comics nowadays, sadly. It's like you can tell that I'm a comic fan as well as an artist, so it's like I just keep up with it.
Let's because we could do this forever and it's fun, but I want to give you guys some time to kind of plug your products or your project.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, this is great. This is good. And we're kind of getting a feel, for you guys and your personalities. So otherwise you get on and it's like, it's a sales pitch. They just want to talk about how we should buy their stuff. But see, now we kind of know you guys better as people. And now we're like, no, these guys are cool. I want to go check out their thing. Maybe I will buy it. I like these guys. So go ahead and tell us about it a little bit. We've talked a little bit about, the setting and the time period and stuff, but, kind of paint a picture for us of what it is.
I'm gonna let Wolf do that for about 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm just gonna step to the door and I might yell something out. But
all right.
5 or 10 minutes. Okay, wow. Okay, so basically, our comic is called Venezia, and it's about a female vigilante in the 16th century in Venice, Italy. At least to begin with, Venice, and it's her name. She's known as the Mistress of Venice, or Venezia for short. And we've just published our first issue, which we were able to make out of pocket. We then ran a successful Kickstarter campaign to raise enough money to do a preview of issue 2. And at the end of this month, we're doing a Kickstarter for issue 2. We're currently doing a lot of artwork and concept work for that. We have a really, really active fan page where we have a great interaction with our fan base, and we're able to get really good feedback on the work that we post there. I'm just trying to think of what to say.
Now, again, I've looked at your stuff. It's great. The art's great. The story looks awesome.
Thank you.
The settings and everything. So I was curious though, and I do think it was a great choice and all this stuff. But I'm kind of interested in the reasoning behind you picked the location and the time period and everything. Was there a specific reason, or were you just there and the buildings were cool, or what was the reasoning behind doing a period piece and all that?
Well, I should point out that when I create a story, I don't really build the elements like that. I usually have the story kind of in a package the moment I'm kind of thinking of it, and I tend to build within that package rather than changing. Do you follow what I mean? Like
you come up with a framework and then you flesh it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the moment I thought of the character, I was thinking Venice, Italy, 16th century. That all came at the same time, and I was thinking about it before I actually moved to Italy. Moving to Italy was part of it. I wanted to get a feel of the culture to kind of do the story. Originally, I wanted to do like a TV pilot, and then I decided that doing a comic allowed me to make a better story, really, because just because of what comics are. You know, they're these explosive entities. And not only explosive, but they also provide a great platform for dialogue. So I was really excited, having never done a comic, to begin learning how to do it and creating a pilot issue. So I worked on that for about half a year before I even ran a competition for the art. And
Did you say that the reason you moved there to be able to get the feel of the culture so you can do the project?
Part of the reason, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you're like hardcore into this, like in the commitment value of it.
Kind of, yeah. I am now, obviously. I'm working on it full time. But at the time, it was a passionate idea. And then I had the opportunity to go to Italy and work there, and I took it.
Okay.
Yeah, Venice is this city that is just, when you're there, it just feels alive, you know. It's a really special city in that it feels like it has this incredible soul. You walk around the streets and it's just completely magical. I mean, I'm not doing it justice, but hopefully the comic will.
Yeah, and it definitely does. What you're saying, I mean, I've never been there, but it through the characters and then of course the artwork and everything, and that's why I was mentioning that before. Is it normally, at least from my perspective, I kind of agree with Brian. Like I definitely read the stories, but like I'm more about the art normally.
See, I'm the opposite.
Well, you're the writer though, so that makes sense. And so normally, again, backgrounds aren't something. I mean, sometimes, like if it's a really cool picture of like maybe New York City and there's a lot of detail, or I know something unique about it. I'm not like, oh, let me stare at the bricks of this building and the way they're drawn. But I found myself doing that with your stuff, and the city really did it. It did translate really well coming through it. Of wow, there's so much in, like you said, environment. There's so much there, and so you guys did a really good job of getting that through.
Well, you know, I do think that one of the biggest parts of that is, as Americans, we're kind of spoiled. You know, it's because we see New York on TV all the time. We see all these places that everybody wants to go whenever they come to America, or if they live in, you know, a rural area. We see all these places on TV or on the internet, but whenever it comes to somewhere like Venice, I mean, how often do you see Venice on fucking TV unless it's like, the backdrop of, the morning news all of a sudden where they've got a picture of a fucking canal in the back. I think that lends itself in a big way psychologically to why it is an interesting place is because from an American standpoint, I don't know how other people feel about it, but I think that we're kind of spoiled as far as our visuals of what we see every day. I mean, you turn on CNN, you're guaranteed to see New York or California or anywhere like that, or LA. You're guaranteed to see that at some point flipping through channels on TV. I think it's just ingrained in our society what the standard image of those places is. And something like Venice, it's not something that's ingrained in something that we see every day. It's something that is kind of a forte that people have to seek out, in my opinion.
Yeah, and going with that, Brian, what did you use as an artist for reference? I mean, did Wolf have a bunch of pictures? Were you like Googling stuff? Like, what did you use? You obviously didn't just make up the detail. How did you get that such great detail?
Honestly, some of it I did. If you want to be honest, well, not completely. I try to be as faithful to Venice as possible, so I do a lot of research online as far as the look and style of the time period. Wolf and a lot of people have said, well, why don't you just go look at the Assassin's Creed game? I was like, because I don't give a shit about Assassin's Creed. I want to do the actual city. And a lot of people would say, well, yeah, it's faithful to what it is, and it's like, yeah, but I don't want to see it like that. A lot of people probably play that game and they don't even realize to some extent that you're in Venice unless they're really into the story. But I have no interest in looking at a version that somebody else has already created a story around. I want to see the hard framework of what's there.
You want to capture the essence or the spirit of the city and translate that rather than going, oh, someone else drew it like this, I'll just copy that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I mean, granted, there are some guards and stuff that are inspired by that video game because that's the only reference for that material I could find. Because if you go looking for the fucking 16th century stuff, there's no photo reference for that.
Yeah. Whereas, I just want to say, like, whereas the Assassin's Creed developers, they obviously hired historians to get things right. So using kind of them as kind of a reference point for certain things was really invaluable.
Yeah, it's like piggybacking on the research and the investment they made into it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but not to the point where you're copying it.
No, God, no. No, we have not copyright infringed Assassin's Creed in any way whatsoever. Let me make that clear right now.
Yeah, I mean, Assassin's Creed is a very different story from what we're doing. And, if you're into that video game or you're into Game of Thrones or vigilante type situations, it's probably the book for you. If you enjoy great scenery or you just enjoy a nice character piece. I mean, literally, it's one of those books where you tie everything down to a main theme and then you throw in the kitchen sink. It's, there's mostly apparitions down to extreme violence, down to extremely beautiful scenery. I think that it's really a book that I think that we open-mindedly decided, you know what, we're just going to fucking throw everything that we like into it, and then we're going to throw everything that we can find that's interesting into it.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted to say, as well as obviously Venice being the main backdrop for it, there is a secondary location that is still really important to the story that you will see a lot of over the issues, which is Constantinople, otherwise known as Istanbul now. And yeah, that's a really, in fact, in issue 2, we're actually going to be visiting that location, and it's just spectacular. Brian's art for it is just gorgeous.
Okay, so if someone's listening to this, and they're like, man, this thing sounds awesome, I gotta check it out. What is your, do you guys, you mentioned a fan page, and what issues are they available online, or can you buy them? Kind of give us a little bit of how we can get some of this if we're interested.
Well, pretty much we've gone through great lengths to make sure that they're available on anybody's preferable format. We have it available digitally on Graphically. We have it available through Kablam. We have it available through Kablam's Indie Planet Digital and available on the Indie Planet itself. And we're currently working on getting it available on like Comics Press and other formats. Just one of the big things for me is making it really user-friendly for people to find. And on top of that, you know, it's marketing basically. But, you know,
actually, this would be a great platform to make the announcement, Brian, for Comic Spin.
Yeah.
So we've been invited as an independent comic to join Comic Spin, which is kind of a subscription service, sort of like Netflix, but for comics.
Okay.
And the people who've created that have basically invited us, and we're basically going through the process of registering with them and then being put on there, which is very exciting. So hopefully by the end of this month, beginning of next month, we should be available there as a subscription service. And they look like they've got amazing comics there, so competition's going to be great, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, well, congratulations, guys, on that. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're doing another Kickstarter coming up at the end of November to fund the rest of issue 2. I mean, it's going to be apparently done regardless. But, you know, we're trying to give people an option. We're putting together some really interesting rewards that are simply, you know, directed at our fans or people who, you know, are into that kind of material. We're really focusing on trying to please them.
Okay. Did you guys? What was that process like? You said you went through great lengths to get it available. You know, you got on all these different platforms and stuff like that. Was that a painful experience? Was it pretty straightforward? I mean, if I'm out there and I'm thinking, okay, I've got something, or I'm working on a project, and obviously I want to get it out there, and they're looking into some of these things. Do you guys have any recommendations or something that you've kind of been through that process a little bit now?
Honestly, the only thing that's really grueling about it is just the endless amounts of filling out forms and uploading files.
Okay.
That just, at the end of the day, whatever you've done, you know, 5 to 6 hours of filling out forms and uploading and downloading and, you know, just back and forth with someone printing the book or, you know, stocking it for you. That is just probably worse, probably more grueling than sitting there drawing a page for 8 to 12 hours a day.
So that was a kind of painful experience. It's just, okay, one more form, gotta do this again.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I'm not even gonna try to, you know.
It's not a fun process. It's not a fun process at all, but it's a necessary one, unfortunately. You know, you have nobody's just going to give you their attention, their interest. You have to really get yourself out there and get as many people to look at you and to look at what you're doing. And we've done really well with our fan page, for example. You know, we've just gone over 1,000 fans, which is a really big achievement for us. We were really happy about that, and we had a lot of celebration. And it's just Facebook has been invaluable in terms of promotion.
Well, you know, if anybody thinks that they're just going to get in this business and be like, I'm just going to do this page or this issue and I'm going to get discovered. No, there's a lot of fucking footwork involved. And for somebody who wants to break into the business, and, you know, it's one of those things where you really have to drive yourself. No one's going to just pick you up. No one's going to just look at you and go, okay, well, you're in. I mean, that happens if you go to the right people, but there's still some footwork involved there. I mean, it's submission processes. Pretty much everything that you've ever heard about comics that you didn't want to hear is true. You know, you have to go to conventions to get professional portfolio reviews. You can't just email someone on Facebook, because honestly, a lot of people are really nice, but a lot of people don't have a lot of time. And sometimes the people who aren't really nice still don't have the time. It's not that they're dicks, they're just busy. You know, it's a lot of people, it's one of those things, again, you have to have a thick skin. You know? Yeah,
we're actually hoping to start hitting conventions after we've done 3 issues, and we have a trade paperback that we can, you know, kind of just shop around and tell people about. and that's going to be a really exciting time in the development stage.
Yeah, you know, we are planning on shopping to major publishers, you know, and a lot of people, I'm not going to lie, some people, well, like it's actually happened to Wolf on the fan page, but you get, if you haven't pitched a book, sometimes you'll get like a smaller publisher that'll come along who's starting up, and they're like, I really like your material, I want to pick it up. My advice to people who get that message is do some research, find out if they're legit, or they're just some startup company, or they're just some wannabe, or they're just somebody looking to make $1 off of your hard-earned, you know, off of your hard-earned material. Which, you know, we got hit up probably about 3 or 4 months in, and probably a couple of weeks after the Kickstarter or during, and it was just, like I said, it was just one of those companies that was starting up. I don't know if the guy was legit or whatever, but I did some research, and it was just not the place that I want this book to go. And
we actually got several of those coming through. We didn't just get one. We had 4 or 5 different people independently contacting us about, if you give me money, I will promote this, and I'm a new publisher and I really want to do your book and stuff. And it's something you just got to be really careful about. Obviously, I mean, it's very easy to get overexcited about it. But you have to like really keep a cool head and just think things out pragmatically.
All right.
Yeah,
cool.
you know.
Go ahead, Brian.
No. I was talking to my cat.
That poor cat, you know, that cat gets so much abuse, it's unbelievable.
I do not abuse this fucking cat, man. This cat lives like a god. I deliver this motherfucker grapes on my knees and shit.
So that was some great stuff. Like if I'm a startup artist and I'm listening to this, or a writer, you know, whatever, using that word generally, there's been some great like nuggets in here I could really pull out and be able to apply to like my own craft. What do you guys have any other pieces of advice that you want to pass on for someone who's getting started?
Yeah, something I would say is find someone that you can build, someone that you can really connect with and build a really great, strong collaboration with that isn't just financially based. You know, with Brian, I have to be frank, I would be lost without Brian. And it doesn't matter that the relationship started out that I was paying him for the pages he was doing. It's transgressed way beyond that now. Brian and I, we adore this product, and we adore the story, we adore the characters, and we're desperate to tell the story to its completion. And I think that kind of relationship is something to strive for in any kind of industry.
Well, you know, a big thing for me is if I'm looking for a project to work on, like most people, you know, you're looking for the next big thing, or you're looking for the next Batman or Spawn or Spider-Man or X-Men or whatever. You're not always going to find that. Like I said, there is a lot of footwork involved, but at some point, that book may slip across your desk and you'll get to work on it. But you really have to be smart, and you have to want to do it, and you have to have a good instinct for really what it is that you want to do. And you have to tie yourself down and say, you know what, I'm going to do this book regardless. I don't care if it makes other people happy or everybody loves it. I'm doing it for me because it's a book that I want to see done. It's a book that I want to do the way I want to do, and it's a book that I don't think anybody else can do the way that I can do it. I do think to some extent, to start out in this business, you do have to be a little cocky about things. You have to be able to look at some people's artwork and go, you know what, I'm fucking better than that guy. You know? You know, and that's a big thing that I did as a kid, that reading comics, a lot of people get discouraged because they go and they look at Jim Lee and they try to draw Jim Lee. Well, you know, at age 15, I couldn't fucking draw like Jim Lee. You know, it probably looked like something that was done by, you know, someone who was mentally ill. You know, little drawings of heads coming out of arms.
I would have to say, in terms of script writing, something that I've been learning over the past couple of months has really been the fact that it doesn't matter how creative you think you are or how great you think your story or your characters are. If you don't put in the time, the due process to work on it, to improve your script, to improve your craft constantly over and over, and to just not just accept your first draft or your second draft or even your third draft, to just keep pushing it and trying to make it better and accepting criticism and trying to improve through that criticism. That's a really important part of it.
Can I say something here, Wolf? You know, if you want me to be completely honest, from an artist's point of view with a writer who has seen a number of scripts, and I don't mean like 20, I mean like a couple of hundred that have come across me, that, you know, I can tell whenever a guy is like, no, this is fucking gold. I don't need to do a second or third draft. It's gold as soon as it comes out on the paper. Well, you know, I can tell one of those scripts from a mile away. And you know what? It's not fucking gold. It's a piece of shit. It needs to be reworked. I'm not going to say that there aren't good concepts about it, but if anybody thinks that their first shot at something is going to be the definitive moment, if you think it's gold and somebody reads it and tells you it is gold, I guarantee you can do a second or third draft and make something that, you know, is a step above what you think is gold. That is, you know.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
And that's why if you think it's gold to begin with, go ahead and do a couple of drafts. You can probably come up with something that makes what you think is gold something that's 10 times more valuable, and something that's 10 times...
A great example of that, a great example of that was yesterday. So we're still developing we're on like draft 6 right now of script 2, and I was showing Brian 6 pages the other day, and Brian just tore straight through it. It was like, no, we'll put that there, we can put that there, we can delete all of that, get rid of all that. And he basically cut it down to 3 pages. And I was mortified at the time. And then today I was working on seeing how I could actually make that possible in just 3 pages. And it just gave me this beautiful idea for a layout for one of the pages that I'm just desperate to do now. And if he hadn't done it, then there's you know, I wouldn't have thought of it. It wouldn't have happened, and I'm sure it's not going to look as amazing as it will look when it's done.
But, you know, I mean, that's one of the things that you have to accept in a collaboration. And another thing whenever it comes to storytelling and the time frame of a comic, that most people don't understand when they're starting out writing their first script is compression is everything. You can get an hour's worth of dialogue or 6 panels worth of dialogue. You can get that through in 1 page if you boil it down enough to a simplistic and complicated level. You can get 6 pages into 1 page. It's not a problem. Mm-hmm. Maybe not 6, but, you know, you can condense something down enough to where it's a readable project. It's a readable product. You're still getting all the information you wanted across. It's just in a more condensed format, and it still makes sense. But, you know, it's just some people don't understand that whenever they're starting out.
Yeah. I mean, for me in writing this, like, I've got kind of our editor, E.T. Dolman, who's also the letterer. He really wants the script.
Hello?
You there, Wolf? I think we might have lost him.
Yeah.
He said every 20 minutes. It's been 55, so it's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do you have something you were wanting to say there?
Well, I didn't know if you were gonna keep going with this or you wanted to stop for a second. Wait on him.
It looks like I think he's calling back, so he'll be here just a second.
All right. But yeah, I mean, really condensing something down is a huge thing. Because you can take an entire issue and condense it down to 5 pages in most cases in most scripts. And it's like this originally started out as 250 pages, and I'm convinced that force Wolf to condense it down to 120.
I'm not doing 6 issues. I'm doing 9 issues. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I tell yourself that.
I cannot do this story in 6 issues. I have said this so many times to you.
We'll argue about it later, Wolf.
So this is part of that collaborative process you're talking about, where you go back and forth on stuff. So.
Well, actually, let me say this because this is a great thing for anybody. everybody thinks that they need like a year-running series or 12 issues. I got news for you, okay? A publisher doesn't want to publish that because it's a risk. Any money that they put into buying the book from you or paying you for your work, they're going to have to put in twice that amount in advertising. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to take that chance whenever it's a year-long project, unless you've got the next fucking Walking Dead, which a lot of people think that project's the next Walking Dead. Generally, it's in the 25-cent bin by the end of the year. That's no offense to anybody. That's just that's the short and long of it. You know, that's not me being a dick. That's what it is. I've worked on books that I'm pretty sure didn't even make it to making cover price. Probably ended up in the 25-cent bin within like the first hour it was at the comic shop, if it ever got there. But if you take something and you do a short mini where you're doing 4 issues, or you're doing 6 issues, and you can cut it down to 120 pages, generally you have there's a good chance that if it's good enough, you're going to get picked up by a publisher because they don't have to invest much money in it. They can, because business-wise it makes sense to them. You've already done all the footwork. They just have to pay you a small nominal fee, and then at the end of it, if it sells, you'll get a little check, and they'll make, a shitload of money off of something that they didn't have to put much work into, other than probably advertising. And that's really what a lot of publishers are looking for.
Yeah, okay, so it's the idea of why won't I get picked up? Well, you're asking them to take too much of the risk. You need to take on some of the risk yourself. It makes it more desirable for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people just have to know what they have to look at them. They have to put themselves in the publisher's shoes. If you can go pick up a book that's written by Alan Moore that is going to sell a couple of million copies or whatever it is that Alan Moore's selling for these days, I have no clue. Versus some guy you've never heard of that you're not even sure is going to sell 2 issues, and you're going to have to cancel before the run's even completed of the first year or so of issues. They're going to go take Alan Moore. They're going to be like, fuck you, guy. If you come at them with 4 to 6 issues that are 22 or 32 pages apiece, chances are they'll probably pick you up and Alan Moore too, because they'll be like, you know what, this Alan Moore book will cover any money that we may lose, or this small book could make us some money and Alan Moore will too. That's really what that's. I mean, you can go ask a million other people. That's just my opinion. That's the standpoint that I come at it from, is pretty much economical business aspects.
Yeah, you really have to stop, okay, to you it's the greatest thing that's ever been written and produced, but to a publisher, they're thinking, are we going to make money on this, or are we going to lose money? And they're looking, it's all about, they're looking at the Excel sheet, basically, of how are we going to make money and get rid of risk. And then as an artist, sometimes there's that disconnect of, but it's so great, just publish it, people will love it. I wanted to, as we come to a close here, I want to take a minute to talk about your guys as colorist and letter editor, because obviously I'm talking to you two, writer, artist, but there's obviously more involved in the team. So if you guys want to take a minute and kind of talk about some of the other people on your creative team.
That's Wolfjaw. I mean, I'm going to talk about the colorist. I don't know the letterer so well. The colorist is a dear friend of mine, but go ahead.
Brian, you talk about the colorist on me first.
Okay, well, about a year ago, I was working on a book, which is actually the book that I met my old lady on, that we were working together on, and we were doing a colorist search, and we ran an ad, and during that I was also looking at colorists on DeviantArt, and I ran across Omi.
Omi Remolanti Jr.
Yeah. Sorry, I can never pronounce his last name, Omi, I'm sorry.
So that's Omi Remolanti Jr., just so
yes,
people...
Omi Remolanti Jr.
Yeah.
But I ran across his work, and it didn't look like anything else I'd seen. It was very polished, very professional. And it was just one of those things where it was something that really was impressive as opposed to a lot of the stuff we were getting in that was absolutely terrible. And, you get that a lot. Don't just think that, every response you're going to get to something is going to be gold. And it's generally sometimes terrible. But so we got Omi to do some test colors. And pretty much me and my girlfriend ended up moving in together, and pretty much that project got put on hold. And I never got to work with Omi. And an opportunity came up with Venezia. And Omi is just, honestly, in some ways, I think he's the saving grace of the book, if you want to be honest. He brings so much to the palette, besides professionalism. He has a great style. It's a very mainstream looking style in some cases, but there's also something that is a lot different from mainstream styles. His color, he does a lot of gradient stuff, but then he goes in and does a lot of like painter quality stuff, and it's something that I really felt brought a lot to the book.
Yeah, I mean, another thing worth mentioning about Omi is just the incredible speed. I mean, not only is the work just top professional quality, he just pops it out so fast. You're talking about it a couple of days later, you know, there it is, and then there's the next one, and he's just a machine. It's absolutely incredible that he just...
Yeah. I always see him on Facebook. I don't know if the fucker even sleeps, I want to be honest. But you know, it's just I don't know if he does. I think that he literally just sits there and has somebody with an eyedropper dropping water in his eyes so that he can sit there and work just 24/7. You know?
Yeah, he's definitely a rising star right now in the indie scene. I mean, he's got a lot of projects.
Not just the indie scene, Wolf.
Not just I'm not aware of all of his projects, but I know he's got a lot of big stuff coming up soon, and it's a very exciting time for Omi, and it's a very exciting time for us to be associated with him and to have the privilege to work with him.
Yeah, and you know, if everybody knows who Joe Weems is, he's a pretty... He's one of those inkers that you actually know his name whenever you hear him. You know, not everybody knows an inker's name when they hear him. Is generally related to the penciler. But, you know, Joe Weems is one of those inkers that if you hear his name, you're generally like, who the fuck is that? I mean, he's done a lot of Dave Finch work, and he did a lot of Top Cow and Image stuff. But he's one of those inkers that like, got famous. You know, a lot of inkers are famous. I have a good friend of mine who's a professional inker. And, you know, I respect the hell out of those guys because they bring so much to artwork. But my point being in bringing that up is that Joe Weems is one of those recognizable names in a job that you normally don't notice if they come up to you and tell you who they are. But I think that Omi is like that for colorists. Those guys that people go out and they seek. They'll go out and seek Joe Weems' work. And he's an inker. I think that Omi's going to be one of those people that they go out to seek his color work as well.
Yeah, definitely. We've also got E.T. Dolman, who originally came onto the project as a letterer. He's doing a lot of work in the indie scene. He's got a lot of work coming out, being published right now. So it's a very busy time for him. And his lettering work, it's exciting to see him growing as a letterer and developing, and I think he's really making massive contribution through his lettering style for Venezia. He's helping to define it, and about halfway through the process, he somehow ended up becoming my editor, and he's been invaluable in that asset as well. He's taught me a huge amount about script writing, and he's just got a very analytical eye. You know, he has a certain way of seeing the script that after it's gone through Brian, you know, it makes the script much better as well. You're definitely going to see that with issue 2. I mean, it's beautifully arced going through these 3 acts. It's going to be incredible. I'm really excited for people to see issue 2 and to see his work.
When do you guys plan on having issue 2 out? Is that coming up soon?
Well, we've got to do the Kickstarter to raise the rest of the money, but we should. I don't know. I think we're definitely on schedule for the 3rd to 4th week of December.
Okay. All right, so we'll definitely keep an eye out on that. Did you guys have anything else you were wanting to cover?
Well, there's also our cover artist, Craig Hamilton. Yeah. He's obviously a big name in the industry, and well, let Brian talk about
that. Craig Hamilton. Where to begin? people may remember him from a run on Aquaman in the 80s, or his work on Lucifer, or his work on will be coming out in November is Fable's Werewolves of the Heartland, in November 20th, I think. Which, you know, if you didn't hear of him by that point, I'm sure any Fables fan has seen his work and knows his work. But he's one of those artists that live in my hometown, and I've known him for about 9 years. He's been a great big influence on my work, and he's just introduced me to so much stuff, and he's such a great technical artist. And you know, he's not an artist. He doesn't just put things out just to put them out. You know, it's one of those people who approaches everything from an artistic point of view. You know, I like to say he's an artist. And if you've seen the cover to Venezia, then obviously you've seen his work. But a lot of people, they love that cover, and a lot of people love Craig's style. But he's doing as many covers as we can afford him to do. But hopefully all of them, we're hoping. But yeah, Craig's been a friend of mine for a long time, and you know, we're just really big fans of his. And whenever I told him about the project, he immediately kind of jumped on board. And then I asked Wolf, I was like, well, you know, you want to see if Craig Hamilton wants to do the covers? And he's like, did some research on Craig, and he's like, fuck yeah, with some covers, you know. But Craig is one of those people that just, he saw the project, he saw the potential it had, and he immediately latched onto it, and it's something that he really cares about and wants to do. Like I said, if you've never seen his work before and you're a Fables fan, if you are familiar with him, then this, again, is something that you'll probably want to get, because we're doing limited print runs on his covers and everything else. And if you've never heard of Craig Hamilton and you're looking for a great artist that you really want to get into, it's a great place to start.
Okay. Where can people follow up a bit more? You mentioned your Facebook page. What's the best place to keep in touch with you guys and your project and with Venezia?
Well, let me just say out the Facebook address, which is, you know, facebook.com/Venezia comic, okay. And there you are. That takes us to it. If you go to Graphically, which is graphic.ly, you can search for Venezia there and pick up a digital distribution, which is 99 cents. You can also go to Indie Planet. Brian, what's the address for that?
It's indieplanet.com. Just do a search for Venezia, and you can get printed. Go ahead.
No, you carry on.
So, if you want to get a printed copy, go to indieplanet.com. Just search for Venezia. If you go to our Facebook page, you can find links to buy it. If you go to my personal art fan page, which, if you give me a second, I'll get you the address.
So yeah, the printed edition is $3.99.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to, there's also links on my art page if you want to go and look at my art or give me a like or whatever. It's facebook.com/Brian with a capital B, McCraney with a capital M, and art. Or just search Brian McCraney art on Facebook.
Yeah, and we should hopefully have news about Comic Spin being announced on our fan page soon.
All right. That's cool. All right, guys, once again, I want to thank you for taking time and coming and doing this, and so we can get to know more about this project. Again, very excited about Venezia, and also just some of the stuff you guys talked about is just going to be really helpful, I think, to other artists out there who are trying to get to the next level, who are trying to get published, trying to get into stuff. So just thank you guys very much.
Thank you for having us.
Anytime.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like what you heard and you want to check out more of what we have, go over to TekTor Productions. TekTor is TekTor, and then the word productions.com. We have many other things other than just TekTor TV. We have other episodes of TekTor TV, as well as some other things, such as the weekly crossover. It is a weekly newsletter that we send out to people who have subscribed. So you can go over there and subscribe to that so you won't miss anything. You'll get great personal coaching for your art, keep you motivated, keep you inspired, as well as keep you